Google gets fined again. Ethereum's going green. China's dominated 5G. There's money laundering in crypto. I've got some space stuff. And finally, there's a pizza making robot. Hello friends, and welcome to the latest issue of the Wiser newsletter. Please remember to hit the subscribe button, and if you listen to this on the audio blog on Substack, hit the little heart button, and then that lets us know that you've liked and enjoyed this issue of the Wiser newsletter. Now let's crack on. The lead story in this week's Wiser newsletter is about France fining Google. Google has been fined €500 million, which is nearly $600 million, by France's competition regulator. This all comes down to the antitrust issue that got Australia all worked up earlier this year, which is that Google is making money hand over fist off the back of content creators, in this case, news and media outlets. Now, the regulator has threatened a further fine of €900,000 a day for each day that they don't come to some agreement within the next 2 months. Now, this follows a €220 million fine from the French in June for what antitrust authorities described as abusing its market dominance in the online ad business. Now, this is not the only trouble for Google, because over in the United States, their latest battle with regulators comes after a group of US states sued Google. They argue that Google abuses its control of Google Play. Google responded by simply saying, no, they didn't. Now, in my view, the European approach to regulations is completely different to the American one. And when it comes to antitrust against all of big tech, not just Google, the US seems hopelessly slow and hampered by its antitrust laws that were simply not written for a when the product is free market. You have to remember that US antitrust is based on price competition. It wasn't intended or written for a monopolistic, free-to-consumer market. Now, add to that the apparent inability of the aging American politicians to grasp the very basics of big tech. Remember the question that went viral from Republican Senator Orrin Hatch to Facebook's Mark Zuckerberg.
Sustain a business model in which users don't pay for your service.
Senator, we run ads.
Now check the comments section out, because I've got a link to a YouTube video that somebody else has done, which has got a whole video on these stupid questions that were placed to Google from US politicians. Now moving on to crypto. The question is, can crypto answer the energy question? Now, you will know from previous issues of the Wiser newsletter of the environmental concerns surrounding the energy demands from cryptocurrency. Headlines compare Bitcoin to the energy use of countries like Denmark. However, the actual extent of the environmental impact of crypto is debatable, although nobody actually pretends that Bitcoin and Ethereum don't use a lot of it. We know that they do. The issue is that Bitcoin and Ethereum currently derive their security and functionality from a process called proof of work. This is the process that has proven to be very inefficient, albeit effective, in making the crypto networks work. For Bitcoin, the number one cryptocurrency, frankly, they're stuck with the proof of work protocol on its blockchain network. However, Ethereum isn't. And Ethereum plans to switch to a new system called proof of stake in the next year. Ethereum claimed that this will decrease its energy usage by 99.95%. Have a look in the comments, and I've got a link to a fantastic article which explains the difference between proof of work and proof of stake. Now, also on the subject of crypto, money laundering has been in the news in the last week. Hong Kong authorities have cracked down on a money laundering syndicate that included $113 million in cryptocurrencies. 40 separate crypto wallets were used, and more than 60% of the funds have been funneled through accounts in the crypto-friendly island of Singapore. Meanwhile, British police have confiscated around $250 million worth of cryptocurrency as part of an ongoing money laundering investigation in London. The Met Police announced that this was one of the largest crypto seizures in the world and breaks a record for the police force that was set only last month. Now let's look at China's dominance of 5G. China has 70% of the world's 5G base stations. The country has deployed almost 1 million 5G base stations, and the number of 5G connected devices in China exceeds 365 million, making up 80% of the world's total. It is estimated that by 2025, roughly 25% of the global population will be using 5G. Now, the question is, so what? Well, the answer is that 5G is the next generation of technology for internet access over mobile. It is at least 10 times faster than 4G and will enable a whole new world of technology over the airwaves that just isn't possible today. Now, leading the way is China's Huawei, the world's leading telecommunications manufacturer. Now, you will recall last year that President Trump went to war with Huawei. This was supposedly on security grounds, although, frankly, it was more likely an attempt to stall China's dominance on economic grounds. China already has the largest single consumer market and has established significant innovation advantages over the US economy. There was a time when China was known for manufacturing the simple things like pens and toys. Brand China was seen as cheap and cheerful. But now China has developed world-leading capabilities for manufacturing complex and advanced technologies. In the last decade, China has surpassed the United States that range from smartphone production to renewable energy deployment, from mobile payments to AI-based language recognition technology. On top of that, China's annual spend on infrastructure is 3.5 times that of the United States, including technologies such as 5G. This is why advocates of President Biden's infrastructure bill argue that it is imperative to keep pace with China. Again, look in the comments for the article by Brett King, which gives you a lot more on this subject. Now, I want to do a little plug for another video that I've just recently put up, and that was when I spoke recently to Christer Holloman. Christer is a fintech CEO, and he's just written a fantastic book called Transactional to Transformational: How Banks Innovate. If you really want to understand old with the new, with analog to a digital world when it comes to banking, because Christer has spoken to 100 banks and broken it down into 16 different areas where he compares and contrasts the two different approaches. And finally, a couple of snippets. Hopefully you've seen my video on the Billionaire space race. Well, it took a step further a week ago when Virgin Galactic's CEO, Sir Richard Branson, went first.
3, 2, 1, release, release, release. Clean release. Ignition. Good rocket motor burn. There's Mach 1, trimming now.
Of the 3 billionaires leading the space race, Branson beat Bezos by 8 days when he flew 80 kilometers up in a space plane called Eve. Well, this coming Tuesday, Jeff Bezos is going to trump Branson, and he will make history and what would be the world's first unpiloted suborbital flight with an all-civilian crew. That's right, there will be no pilots on board the New Shepard space rocket, just a monster jetpack that will launch Bezos and the 3 fellow tourists 100 kilometers up to the very edge of space, touching the Kármán line. And finally, watch robots make pizzas at an automated pizzeria. This is Pizzaria, a restaurant in Paris where customers watch their pizzas being made by a team of robots. That's all for this week. I hope you've enjoyed the latest issue of the Wiser newsletter. If you do, hit the like button and please remember to subscribe. And if you go into the comment section below, you'll see links to the newsletter so you can sign up for the issue which comes out every single Friday, and also links to some of the other stories which we've covered in this newsletter. That's all for now. See you next week, and remember, inside information gives you leverage. Thanks for watching.